Hi, everyone. Hopefully you're able to hear me now. This message to you guys. Yeah, I think I'll get started in a minute or two here. Just wanted to do an audio check. So you should be able to see a chat message that I just sent. And you should be able to raise your hand too. If the chat message doesn't appear, you'll at least be able to do that. So if you're having trouble hearing me now or any time during the presentation, just raise your hand or shoot me a chat message. Hopefully you can see me as well. Here, yeah. So you should definitely be able to see me now as well. And I think you'll be able to see me when I have the presentation up too. Okay, so I'm not seeing any hands raised or anyone messaging me in chat. So hopefully that's a good sign that everyone's hearing me okay. So just in terms of introduction here, I'm Jordan from Nautico Iberia. We have a lot of projects in location-based services. We have a beacon project called nauticans.com. If you want to take a look, I can send you the link. Some projects with Taxi app. We have a program called My Public Alerts for governments. We work with a lot of security software. So we have a broad range of projects with smart cities and with beacons. I am seeing a raised hand here, so hopefully you can hear me. I am seeing the microphone recording, so hopefully that means you can hear me. And if you can see the chat, just shoot me a message if there's any issues, or you can shoot me an email. You should have my email in your inboxes. So yeah, that's a little bit about us. And yeah, I just wanted to welcome you guys all here. We are based out of Barcelona. Nice and sunny today. You can see the ag bar in the background, maybe. Come pop by anytime if you want to talk more about beacons. Perfect, you can hear me. Great, thanks. So yes, just wanted to share a bit about beacons briefly. Hopefully all of you guys have a pretty good understanding of the technology and really dig into some case studies into different areas that beacons are used for smart cities. So if you do have any questions, feel free to type them in. I can try and get to them during the presentation, or at the very least, we'll have an FAQ at the end, and I think I can get some audio working for you guys too. But other than that, let's dig in. Get the slide going here. So, like I said, just briefly, just a beacon overview for those of us who aren't as familiar with beacons. Basically, they're small devices, and I think you can still see me. If you can't, shoot me a message. But I've got two beacons here just to give you an example that I'm holding up. Hopefully you can see that. Small devices, they can cost $5 for batteries that last a couple weeks, usually used for events, or you've seen maybe $35 or even more for batteries lasting more years, and they're better quality too. I can give you a sheet on choosing beacon hardware later if you're interested in purchasing beacons. But basically what they do is they emit an identifying signal via Bluetooth low energy, and this signal can be picked up by your smartphone. And unlike Bluetooth, which can be just a vampire for energy, Bluetooth in the past, this Bluetooth only takes a few percentage of battery power a day, and you can just have small batteries lasting for years even. Sending messages, sending identifiers. And I just wanted to mention one misconception here is that beacons collect data themselves and that user privacy is at risk. And this isn't the case. Like I said, they just send out an identifier. So basically, if the user can trust the app, they can trust the beacons. So fears of smart cities becoming Big Brother may not necessarily apply to beacons as much, as long as these cities are using the apps correctly to collect data in a privacy-oriented manner, in a user privacy-oriented manner. So I think that's all I go into about beacons. If you want to learn more, we do have another webinar every month, and I can answer some questions at the end too. So as far as beacons in smart cities, yeah, I really do think that beacons, and we've seen that beacons can help make cities smarter. It really is an exciting technology, and in particular, which we'll dig into here, I think they can help with 5 specific areas: tourism, visually impaired services, safety, and transportation services. Okay, so any questions thus far before we go into these 5 areas? Not seeing anything, so I'll keep on going here. So this should be a pretty obvious one because a lot of people get to cities and they're just very disoriented. They don't have data plans. Public Wi-Fi obviously doesn't cover everywhere, and especially for location, GPS doesn't cut it, in particular indoors. So beacons can be the solution here. And just to give a couple examples, a lot of museums are using beacons. The Guggenheim in New York in particular has a Near Me app that displays contextual audio, visual, and text nearby art exhibitions. And there's a lot of organizations that are having outdoor beacons send messages. Penn State's doing this. There's historical sites like the Monticello where President Jefferson lived when he was president of the U.S., or I guess before president of the U.S. And there's some apps that you can even tour whole neighborhoods, like the Detour app. And then there's 2 projects in particular that I wanted to focus on, or I guess just one project here. I can talk about another one in a different section. But one project I wanted to highlight was this Piacenza project. It's from Ultraviolet app. They're based in Piacenza, Italy, and it's an application from the city itself, and it's designed for both tourists who want to discover the area, and for people who are from there who want to learn more about what's going on around them. And so with this app, you have an interactive map of the city, and you can see main points of historic and artistic interests. You can see different streets, so you can see where you are, and you can be pinged when you're near a particular place. And they don't just stop out with outside tours; they help you inside as well. So you can see where you are in different museums or art galleries. So it's really cool, really comprehensive. It's more for tourists and citizens, but they do have other things on the map too, like public utilities and different things, and occasionally have different events going out. So you can get some really good quality information from the app if you're a citizen too. That's cool because it's from the city itself. It's an initiative. They worked with an app provider, Ultraviolet, but the city is behind it. No, not what I wanted to do there. So if there's any questions, feel free to, yeah, thank you for the links here too. Santander, biggest smart city in Spain. Yeah, that's really good. I think we tweeted that out recently too. Thanks for that tidbit. So the next area I want to dig into, unless there's any questions, and just plug them in, was for the visually impaired. So especially for people who can't see very well, beacons can be really helpful. It's very important to know accurately where you are. And so there's this group called Wayfinder. They've been trying to develop an open standard to make spaces more navigatable for the visually impaired via beacons. And so most beacon projects we see in this space are fairly small, but this project has a $1 million grant behind it. It's part of Google's Impact Challenge. So their goal is to really broaden the development of BLE in this area, and they're a nonprofit too, so it's a really cool project that we're excited about. I think they're working already in London's Underground, and hopefully we see their open standard in more places too. I think transport systems in particular this is great for, and obviously indoor spaces, museums, plus college campuses, for example, just large spaces that people need to get around that you really need to have very specific info about to know where you're going. And I wanted to highlight two projects in particular. I don't believe either of them are using Wayfinder, but they are working in this space. There's a project in Germany that we just found out about. It's in the Bethel area of Germany, and they have an app from the city. It was worked on by a creative, like a freelancer. I was emailing with him about it, but it's pretty cool, and it's especially helpful. It can be helpful for tourists too, but basically when you walk up to a certain building or an area, there's audio information about that area and about how to get around to. And it works with GPS, but you don't have to have GPS on. It works with BLE as well. So that was pretty cool to find out about. And they have, like I said, 26 different areas set up with beacons. Also, I wanted to mention a project we found in Italy. I believe Onyx Beacon is behind it. There's 160 buses. I think this is in northern Italy. 160 buses linked up with beacons that take something near 20 million trips per year. And basically, when the bus nears a stop, the people at the stop are alerted that the bus is coming and which bus it is. So this is great for people who are visually impaired. Plus, they added some useful parts of the app for people who aren't visually impaired. You can have a complaints interface available 24/7. And you can also receive information about your routes. Maybe there's a route change or something like that. So it's a pretty cool app that can be used by the visually impaired and by anyone else who is interested in keeping up to date with that particular bus service. If there's any questions on that area, ask away. Otherwise, I'll move on to safety. Okay, so, and this is an area that we have some expertise in. I can dig into that in a second here, but just broadly speaking, beacons can be great to send notifications quickly to the right people. The biggest project in this particular part of smart cities is in Columbus, Ohio, at least as far as I know. They've got 1,300 beacons involved in sending and receiving messages. So it's called the Safe City Initiative, and you can get information about public hazards, plus sends them information that there's a hazard somewhere. So it's cool, it's really interactive, and it could end up saving lives if there's a real emergency. You really need to reach people quickly that are in this particular area. Also, I wanted to mention Navia. This is from way back, so some of you may be pretty familiar with this, but they had a program giving away beacon bracelets to help parents keep track of their kids. So maybe some cities could launch this type of program where they help people keep track of other people. You could also use beacons, just to throw some ideas out, to help people find an emergency exit. Help people find a fire extinguisher, have a beacon emitting where this fire extinguisher is, have a defibrillator. Yeah, so you can really help pinpoint emergency services if needed. And as I was saying, we've got a project called My Public Alerts. And with this, yes, there is. Sorry. I'll send everyone a link. Hopefully that helps. So yes, as I was saying with My Public Alerts, it's a project from we have a branch in Paris too, but a project from our branch in Madrid predominantly. They've got a couple different people working on it. But basically, cities can send a notification if there's an emergency or something going on. They do it more with geofencing and GPS, but we've been thinking through using beacons as well to work with this My Public Alert system. Yeah, I think that's all I'll go into here. And as far as transportation services, this is a huge area. And some of these projects come from the cities themselves, some of them from the Transportation Authority, some of them are private projects. But this is certainly a vertical that we're seeing more and more beacons involved in particular with airports. So I have a couple airports listed here. The Schiphol in Amsterdam Airport, the Hamad International Airport, and the Miami Airport all have hundreds of beacons that are sending messages, collecting data, and helping with indoor mapping. CETA actually has a really cool project. I think I've got a link. I can send you guys a link after. But they've got a really cool project to help airports use beacons for mapping. And I believe all three of these airports are using that exact system. So they've got kind of a protocol in place that airports can use. Yeah, really cool. Obviously, like getting to the right gate at the right time is absolutely crucial at airports, and you can't use GPS indoors. And they're huge spaces in general. So beacons are perfect for indoor navigation at airports. And the same goes for train stations. Taipei just announced, I think maybe a month ago, that they're going to be using beacons in its main station, which apparently is this very crazy multi-level station that's really difficult to get around. I think 90% of people surveyed said they got lost there. So beacons will be huge there for mapping out the space. Plus, in addition to indoor mapping, a lot of transportation locations are sending out marketing messages from nearby vendors. Dusseldorf, I think, sent 250,000 messages last year. Seemed to have pretty good results from that. They were just testing it out. There's also a program with black cabs in London with 4,000 different black cabs that were placed in different taxis, and I think the average ride is over 20 minutes in London. So this was a great chance to send a message to someone, a relevant message. I also wanted to mention Hotspot as a really cool project, I believe based in Canada, that they send messages from parking lots. You can pay with Bluetooth, I believe. Yeah, you can pay with Bluetooth, and using that same BLE system, you can get messages about nearby vendors. So yeah, we're seeing them on taxis, trains, buses, planes, and all different types of transportation methods. And it's a pretty exciting area, pretty exciting vertical, because they can be massive implementations. I believe Miami Airport had 500 beacons they were just using for data until they recently did the indoor mapping program too. So if there's any questions there, let me know. Otherwise, onwards and upwards. So the last area, collecting data. And again, this is something that people are concerned about, worrying about Big Brother. I don't know if you guys were following the Smart City News recently, but there was an article about Singapore installing this huge IoT network, tracking when people go to the bathroom, for example. So that's a bit creepy. So hopefully beacons won't be used to track that level of intimate data, but they can be used to track where people are. Generally, this is anonymous, but they can basically attach all the information that your app has about a user previously to where that user is located, as long as they have location services and Bluetooth turned on. So we could see some implementations about collecting data about where people are using city buildings. You can also use it for events. Like city planners could see the traffic flow of a particular event they're throwing. You could also see how long a wait time in a certain area is of, maybe a place to pick up your driving license. You can see that this particular location has a very long wait time compared to this one, and improved the traffic flow of this DMV. You can engage with people coming to different events too. Send out different marketing messages or a welcome message, or send them out a survey. There's a lot of different things you can do with events and with managing traffic flow. In addition to just kind of general broad data you can collect about where people are located. You can also track the weather with some beacons. In Japan, they're using these things called WX beacons. I believe it was a weather service. I don't think it was from the government itself, but to their most active users, they gave away these beacons that they can carry around with them. And these beacons can transmit, if it's raining or how hot it is, and different types of weather data, which is pretty cool. So they can help improve the weather predictions by aggregating all of that data. Another just thing I wanted to mention was it can really help with the transportation of goods too. I haven't seen this from a city yet, but I believe this is in Germany. Beacons are being used by farmers to track their goods being moved from one location to another. I think there may have been an issue with some goods being stolen or being lost along the way. So these beacons track it at different locations, what the weight of the particular tractor or truck is. So if the city is transporting something from one area to another, you can track the weight. Maybe even they can use it for buses. See how many people are on a bus by tracking the weight on that particular bus. So that could be a cool use case as well. So yeah, those are the 5 areas. So as you can see, there's just a broad range of projects with smart cities. And the good news is that beacons in general can be used by multiple apps. So, for example, if they're installed at a bus station, they can send out marketing messages using one app, help tourists get around or map out where they are with another app, and help the visually impaired find when the next bus is coming with a different app. Yeah, so really there are a lot of cities that are on top of this, but not every city is quite as on top of this. And then as you can see, there's a lot in the private sector going on here. I did want to highlight Amsterdam has an iBeacon Living Lab for people to experiment with beacon projects. I know they started with around 1 kilometer of beacons, but I think they're expanding it, and they have expanded it already to 2 kilometers. So with beacons just lining one particular area. And so this is kind of a testing ground for people wanting to test public applications, like tourist routes, like sending marketing messages, like using data from those beacons in different apps. So that's a really cool project. It shows that, there's at least one city that's interested in helping people experiment to improve their city with beacons. Also pretty heavily, there's some pretty cool projects going on in San Francisco with beacons too, as well as here in Barcelona. We had the Mobile World Congress here pretty recently, and that was all decked out with beacons. We've got a lot of IoT sensors here. So yeah, we see cities starting to take on this technology, but it's not quite as big as the retail vertical, for example. Although it may become much more expanded, especially with regard to transportation services. So yeah, we're looking forward to seeing more deployments in cities because we think they can be a powerful tool. And before I get into any questions, oh yeah, thank you, Greg, for the link about the weather beacons. I just wanted to mention that we do offer a free consulting session if you're interested. You can shoot me an email or sign up right here. And if you are interested in beacons for retail, we do, or just learning more about beacons in general, I think maybe we dig into beacons for maybe 10, 15 minutes in this webinar. You can sign up for our webinar about beacons in general, but it's more focused on the retail space. So if there are any questions, now is the time. Well, I'm not seeing anything. I will stay on the line here for a few minutes in case something comes up. But if you do have any further follow-up questions, I'm typing in my email. And yeah, I'm available. All right, well, thank you guys for attending. Appreciate it. Okay, not seeing any questions, so just gonna wrap it up here. Thank you all again. Muchas gracias. Merci beaucoup. And yeah, until next time. Oh, seeing some questions. I think there's a bit of delay here, so I'm just seeing the questions now. So housing policy I haven't seen, but there is a group working with apartments. As well as Redfin helps people find houses to buy. Those are the only two projects I've seen in real estate. I can send you a link to that later. And yes, they do have to generally download the app. And they have to download the beacon content generally too. Set that up. There's a new project from Google called Eddystone, or maybe a year old now, that you can send messages directly to users who have Chrome installed. So this is more for Android. Sorry, can you clarify that question, Ravi? And again, I think there's a delay. So yes, you need, so to send a message with beacons in general, you have to have an app, just to clarify. So cities would have to have their own app to send that particular message. Hopefully that helps. Okay, so why would someone download these many apps? Yes, there is some projects I'm trying to fi.net is worth checking out. So I'm sorry about the delay here. You're probably hearing my answers a couple minutes afterwards, but fi.net is this really cool project to basically, it's using Chrome, these Eddystone beacons, to send messages to people who have this particular page open. So it's a cool project. Okay, nice, great link. Yes, and yeah, that's a really good point. If you're still hearing me, Ravi, you do have to have all these different apps to get these messages. So there are people trying to unite the space by having some common platforms that you can use to send beacon messages, like 5.net. There's a couple other ones I've heard of too, if you're really interested. But they're worth checking out. But yes, in general, to send messages to iOS, they do have to have an app. So there's really not much workaround there. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions here, but yeah, there's been some really good interaction, so I appreciate it. So if you do have any questions, I'll stick around here for another minute or so. But otherwise, we can schedule something, more one-on-one if you guys prefer to. Common platform with little extra extensions. Oh, so yeah, I'm still not quite understanding. If you can give me an example outside of beacons, maybe I can come up with a case study. Like in a browser for a particular application, you download an extension. Cool. So I haven't heard of anything exactly that suits that need. But there are SDKs. There are SDKs that the apps need to use. So they need to install a software development kit in order to have beacon functionality. And if the user allows them to send notifications and they have Bluetooth on, they'll get the message. But I haven't seen anything that would be cool if possible. And I'm sure there could be some ways to get to that. Where if a user wants to get beacon messages, they can add this extension to the app, but the app would have to send out the messages themselves. Yeah, I saw a link on chat about general webinar beacons, but I can't scroll up to find it. That's weird. So I think the next one. I'm not entirely sure the exact date. So that was it is focused. Focus more. So yeah, the webinar is focused a little bit more on retail and how retailers have been using beacons, but we do give a much broader overview of beacons in general. So if you want to get a more in-depth look at beacons, it's a place to go. And Ravi, if you're still on here, it'd be great to get into a conversation and get your ideas about that project, because it does sound pretty interesting. And I'll give it some more thought too. Maybe there's some other case studies that I can pull up from our site. Well, not seeing any other questions here. I know I've done that a couple times, and there's been more questions, which is fantastic. Appreciate the interaction here. But if I'm not seeing any other questions, and yeah, I'll just stay on here for two more minutes, and if no more questions, then hasta luego, and you can reach me by email, or I can give you a Skype call. Actually, here's my Skype too, if you want. There's my Skype too, if you wanted to just reach out at some point. Shoot me a message there or via email. Yeah. But yeah, I really appreciate the interaction and the questions, and yeah, some really good good conversation going here. Hopefully I continue it within another webinar or Skype or in person in the sun. Thank you. At the sign off here. Thanks everyone for attending. Appreciate it. Thank you.